Doctor Who.
Just a doctor.
A twist, a Susan twist, is on the way. Hello YouTube and people of the interwebs, welcome back to another Doctor Who news video. Today, I said news, it's not really news. We're previewing episode 7 of season 1, the first part to our 2-part grand finale, The Legend of Ruby Sunday. There's been a lot of talk, discussion, and a lot of hype over this finale. Russell T Davies himself has said how big, how bombastic, and how shocking the reveals in this episode will be. And we'll discuss it at the end of the video, but the cast list is absolutely stacked. There are people on there that you will not expect to see at all. And we may have the answer to who Susan Twist is playing in this season. But let's start off with our plot synopsis. We'll jump right in. So, the Doctor and Unit investigate Ruby's past. So obviously, this is going to be what we've seen in all of the trailers, and I think maybe there's going to be a cliffhanger to Rogue, which leads us into this big plot twist. I'm guessing it's to do with the snow, because obviously every time something happening to Ruby's past happens, snow starts pouring down, so maybe they go to Unit for answers. Or maybe Unit calls them there because something in the real world's happened. There's a lot of rumours and discussion about a certain somebody playing a certain somebody, but you'll find out if that happens, if you know what I mean. I'm going to jump in here quickly and just ask, if you're not already, please consider subscribing, liking, sharing this video. It really helps me out a lot and allows me to keep YouTube as my part-time job. This channel is full of Doctor Who content that you'll probably, hopefully, maybe enjoy. But as the time window reveals horrifying secrets from Christmas Eve, before we carry on with the synopsis, time window, that is something which has only ever been seen in the whoniverse during the Sarah Jane adventures, which, if anything, adds slightly more, credit to all the theories that Sarah Jane's main adversary, the Trickster, is going to crop up in this season. The mysterious Triad technology unleash the greatest evil of all. So, Triad technology, S-Triad, that's TARDIS, an anagram for TARDIS, is Susan Triad. This is the character played by Susan Twist. Yeah, it is quite complicated to remember. Is she maybe trying to make commercially available time travel in the form of a TARDIS? There's also been people suggesting maybe she is Susan, because back in An Unearthly Child, Susan claims to be the one that came up with the TARDIS initials. If Susan Twist is playing Susan Foreman, she shows up and just goes, well, yeah, this is a name I created for myself, just like I created the anagram TARDIS, something along those lines. But this to me suggests as well that Susan Twist's character maybe isn't the one who waits or anything like that. Unleash the greatest evil of all. Who or what is the greatest evil of all? If we're going by sort of generic Doctor Who standards, I'd immediately jump to, well, that's the Daleks. Greatest evil of all could be one person, or, as the second part of the finale title suggests, it's an empire. And obviously, Daleks are the most sort of, empire-y empire ever. They even have the Emperor Dalek. Does Susan Twist's character know that she's unleashing this big evil? Or is it all more sort of accidental? Also, it's interesting to note that Tales of the TARDIS is getting played on BBC 4, right before the final episode of Season 1, which to me suggests whomever this ancient evil is probably going to get their own Tales of the TARDIS episode. We don't actually know whether it's an entirely new episode or it's one of the previously made episodes. So for example, let's say, fingers crossed, the greatest evil of all is Omega. They'll play the Three Doctors Tales of the TARDIS right before that episode so that people know who Omega is going into that finale. Or maybe it's something completely new. It could be a Pyramids of Mars, for example. Or any other story with godlike creatures. I mean, there's already a Tales of the TARDIS for Fenric if we're going down that sort of route. Maybe, if it is Susan coming up in this finale, it'll be one with Ncuti Gatwa and Susan, or maybe David Bradley playing the First Doctor, and Carol Ann Ford playing Susan. If they have recast Susan, that would just be like a nice thing to do to give Carol Ann Ford the chance to actually act out her iconic character once again. But let's jump into the cast list because, whoa, I think this is the biggest one of the series we've had. The Doctor is, surprise, surprise, played by the wonderful Ncuti Gatwa. That's not to say there aren't going to be other Doctors in this episode. There's probably not. Let's stick to realistic expectations. Ruby Sunday is played by the wonderful Millie Gibson. Kate Lethbridge-Stewart. Obviously, if UNIT are coming in, you're going to get the new UNIT crew. Kate Lethbridge-Stewart is here, played by Gemma Redgrave. Melanie Bush is here, played by Bonnie Langford. Now, that makes me wonder as well. Obviously, Mel is a sort of big part of this new UNIT team. Maybe there's going to be a Mel episode of Tales from the TARDIS or something like that. Maybe this monster in the finale that gets unleashed is actually something Mel has fought before. Rose Noble is here, played by Yasmin Finney. That's fantastic. Lovely to see Donna's daughter back in the action. Does that mean we'll get a cameo from Catherine Tate and David Tennant? Probably, hopefully not. That's not to say I wouldn't go, oh my god, that's so cool, David Tennant and Catherine Tate, they're my favourite TARDIS team. But no, I think we should let this series just feel fresh. In saying that, I also love Doctor Who, so I mean, who knows? But don't let them steal the limelight. Colonel Ibrahim is played by Alexander Devrient. This is another cool character we've barely seen any of. He was in The Giggle very briefly, but hopefully he gets more to do this time. Here's an exciting one. Maurice Gibbons is played by Lenny Rush. Now, Lenny Rush was originally playing one of, well, I think maybe one of or all of the Space Babies. He was going to do the voice for them, but Russell was like, this guy is too good to just use as a voice cameo. Like, let's give him an actual character. And hey presto, you get Maurice Gibbons, who I think is standing in for Ruth Madeley's Shirley Ann Bingham character, because she's away in Geneva, according to Russell T Davies. So yeah, that's the standard Doctor Who thing of this cast member can't make it, so they're in Geneva. But luckily we've got Lenny Rush in to cover for her. Harriet, no surname, that's interesting, is played by Genesis Linnea. Why does Harriet not have a surname? Either she's a minor character, or, I'm not going to claim this theory's mine, someone said it on Twitter, I'm not this smart. Just how we had Henry in The Devil's Cord, Henry Arbinger, we have Harriet Arbinger. This is the sort of precursor to a god coming in. Just how Henry Arbinger was there before Maestro came in, maybe Harriet Arbinger is there ready to welcome in the one who waits, the big evil god at the end of the season. Susan Triad is played by Susan Twist. Yeah, we knew this. And surely it's not a coincidence. I know people in the comments always point out that Astrid is an anagram of TARDIS, and people in 2007, when Voyage of the Damned was coming out, were going, is Astrid part of the TARDIS? All this. But I don't know, S-Triad, that spells TARDIS, guys. Let me know your theories on that in the comments. Carla Sunday is played by Michelle Greenidge, Mrs. Flood, Anita Dobson, Cherry Sunday, Angela Winter. That's exciting stuff again, the Sunday group. I mean, Mrs. Flood isn't part of the family, but them lot, intriguing. Are we going to get more answers on who Mrs. Flood's character is? I mean, S-Triad TARDIS. Mrs. Flood winks at the camera, goes, have you never heard of a TARDIS before? Maybe there's a connection there. Colonel Chidozi is played by Tachia Newell. And here's an interesting one for you. Corporal Sullivan is played by Jasmine Bays. Corporal Sullivan. Harry Sullivan is an imbecile. Do they have something to do with Harry Sullivan? I'm going to imagine so. I think the last mention of former companion Harry Sullivan we had was in the Zygon two-parter in Series 9. So that's interesting. The Vlinks is played by Aidan Cook, so physically played by Aidan Cook, but the voice of the Vlinks is Nicholas Briggs. This, for any of you who don't remember, is UNIT's weird robot-y thing. He's kind of cool, but we'll just have to wait and see. He's barely had any screen time. It's written by Russell T Davies, executive produced by Russell T Davies, Julie Gardner, Jane Tranter, Phil Collins, and Phil Collins' son. That's a lot of executive producers. And produced by the wonderful Vicky Dello. The director is Jamie Donahue, and the production company, obviously BBC, Bad Wolf, etc, all the usual. I asked you guys what you're hoping for out of this episode, so I'm going to do a quick fire round of reading some of your comments. Public Display of Anderson says, I just hope that it's a well-rounded, fun, scary story that doesn't lose itself in too many plot holes, plot points, or gotcha moments. Yeah, I agree. I know it sounds stupid and simple, but at the end of the day, I just want a really, really good story that I can rewatch and rewatch and rewatch and rewatch, because Doctor Who's great, and despite there being over 60 years of it, there's not enough of it. We need more. XBBZ, Gabzy, whatever your name is. As I'm seeing it in the cinema, I hope for a surprise cameo or two so that I can experience collective shock and excitement from the room. I too am going to watch this episode in cinema, so that's exciting. And yeah, I hope if there are cameos, like, I'm on board with cameos, but they've got to be there to service the story. If they're entirely pointless, then yeah, I don't know, it leaves me feeling a bit hollow. Like, the worst cameos ever are in the Flash movie that came out last year. Like, dearie me. If they're just like that, that's annoying, but if they actually serve the plot and serve the story and do it in a respectful and fun way, I'm fully on board for more cameos. Jevanator9479 says a satisfying payoff for Ruby's character and answers regarding Susan Twist. I think anything else would be icing on the cake. Yeah, we've got to find out the Susan Twist character's identity. Is she just Susan Triad? Is maybe there's not more to her than that? Maybe we've been looking into it too deeply. Maybe she's a deliberate sort of misdirect, or maybe she's a harbinger. I don't know. I hope we also find out the identity of Ruby's mum as well. I'm intrigued about that. Steve Connell suggests a classic enemy from the 70s. Yeah, now this is something that I think came from Doctor Who magazine. Russell T Davies said that there's an ancient evil from the third Doctor's era, so the 70s, lurking in Unit HQ. So is that the one who waits? I don't know. I'm so intrigued for this episode. I think that does it for today's video. If you did enjoy, please do remember to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your theories in the comments down below. I genuinely can't wait for the season finale, and I have a feeling it's gonna be a banger. Please subscribe if you did enjoy. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. Ugh, is anyone else dying from hay fever at the moment?